could swear I was told last week that Justin Fields was the new king of the North. I could swear I was told last week that the Bears are this radically revamped roster. I could swear I even received a message that said I wasn't giving enough credit to the Bears for the level of improvement that they've experienced. I must have been dreaming though, because that didn't look to be the case. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Lombardi Time Brews, where I'm your host, John Del Rey. The first Victory Monday of the season is finally here, hopefully of many, many more this year. And if they play the way that they did for most of yesterday, it could be the first of many for the Green Bay Packers in this 2023 season, as they picked up a 38-20 victory over the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. And what a win it was. In many ways, it was a very complete victory. Was it perfect? No. But you saw quality performances from the offense, the defense, and even special teams. The Packers won the field of position battle, the turnover battle. They won in the trenches on both sides of the ball rather convincingly. We're going to talk about that a bunch. And the resident quarterback in Green Bay seemed to do a little bit better than the resident quarterback in Chicago. So we're going to dive into this. I'm going to give my overall thoughts, offensive, defensive, and a little bit teams, and then get into the shout-outs and the get-outs, who performed incredibly well for the Packers that deserves a shout-out, and who should probably just forget that performance and move on to the next week, because we do have a couple of those as well. Thanks for joining me at the very first watch party that we did yesterday. It was a ton of fun. I know a lot of you were there. It was a very fun event. It was a great time for Claudia and I. We are definitely going to be doing it again next week, Sunday. And as I said yesterday, too, we're going to be doing it almost every single game for the year, probably 15 of the 17. Going to be hanging out, talking Packers as the game is going on. And my adage with these is truly, no Packer fan should have to watch a game alone if they don't want to. So you want some friends? Come on, stop by. We'll be happy to talk Packers and what's going on in the game with you. So let's dive in, okay? This was a decisive 38-20 victory for the Green Bay Packers. And it was actually, in some ways, kind of odd. Yes, overall, the Packers did have more yardage than the Bears, but it's not like they had this 500-yard explosion on the way to putting up 38 points. Generally, if you hear an NFL team puts up 38, it's because, one, defensively they get multiple touchdowns or maybe a kickoff return or something like that, or the offense is just a juggernaut that puts up 500, 600 yards on the defense is unstoppable. And that wasn't really the case for the Packers yesterday. Yes, they had more than the Bears, but not this explosive number. They only had 91 total rushing yards and 245 total passing yards. It was, the score itself, kind of buoyed up by Quay Walker's pick six, of course, but it still is fairly low yardage output for the offense. And one thing that really did help to boost it, that I haven't seen talked about enough in all of the conversation in the 24 hours following the game, one topic that I have not seen talked about enough is the starting field position for the Green Bay Packers. They had 12 drives yesterday, 4 of which, 33% of those drives, started in Chicago territory. Another 3 of them started at the 39-yard line of Green Bay or beyond. So 7 of the 12 drives that the Packers had yesterday, they were put in incredibly favorable field position. Just listen to this. I'm going to rattle off the starting field position for all 12, where they started each drive. The Chicago 40, the Green Bay 25, Green Bay 44, Green Bay 31, Green Bay 24, Green Bay 39, the Chicago 43, the Chicago 42, Green Bay 25, the Chicago 44, the Green Bay 7, and the Green Bay 46. In total, though, that is fantastic starting field position. And it really helped, obviously, to shorten the field for the offense and specifically Jordan Love. There were a few long completions for the Packers yesterday, but when you're starting with such favorable field position, you don't necessarily have to look for 60-yard bombs down the field all the time because the field's that much shorter. And that was a huge recipe for success for the Packers yesterday. Pair that with the fact that they also won the turnover battle 2-0. And frankly, if you win the turnover battle and the field position battle, that's a great recipe for success every single week, all year long. And the Packers were very successfully able to do so yesterday. And you know who actually deserves a lot of credit for that? Someone who put together a very good game plan for the Packers defensively to ensure the Packers could get the ball back? That would be defensive coordinator Joe Barry. So let's talk defense. Overall, the defense got after it. They had a pick six. They had 4 sacks on the most mobile quarterback in the NFL. Could they have had more if he wasn't the most mobile? Yeah, we'll get to that too, but still, they did get 4. 28 stops per PFF, which keep in mind, PFF grades a stop as stopping a play before it should have continued, meaning a defender made an excellent tackle, it was a tackle for loss, something like that. But if they're looking at the play and they're saying like the running back could have advanced for more yards, and you stopped them early, it's a stop. Okay, so the Packers had 28 of those, and a pressure rate of almost, depending on which metric you choose, PFF's got one number, other statistical places have different numbers, but basically, to sum it up, the Packers had a pressure rate of around 50% yesterday. That means that half of Justin Fields' dropbacks means that like his play was altered because a Green Bay defensive player was in the backfield with him on half. That's absurd. In fact, according to PFF alone, they had 35 pressures yesterday, which was second most in the NFL in week 1 behind only Dallas, which put together a beautiful defensive display. If you're a fantasy owner at all and you had Dallas, congratulations. But by the way, while we're talking about pressures, let's take a look at Rashawn Gary. The man logged 10 pass rushing snaps yesterday. He got pressures on 5. The dude's an absolute machine. And it wasn't even just pressures. It was 5 hurries for Rashawn Gary yesterday, which means he made Justin Fields run away from him. And there's one really cool picture going around the internet where it was 3rd and 20 for the Bears, and Rashawn Gary in the defensive huddle, before they go line up, Rashawn Gary's doing smelling salts. So, like, it's 3rd and 20, and Gary's amping himself up to go after Fields. I love Rashawn Gary. But 10 snaps, 5 pressures, pure lunacy. Other pressure leaders happen to be a bunch of the young guys. Devontae Wyatt. Lucas Van Ness was up there, and he even got that incredible highlight reel sack on Fields yesterday. Rookie Kobe Wooden was up there amongst the pressure leaders, as well as veteran defensive lineman Kenny Clark. So, if you're going to mention the good with defense, you do have to also mention the bad. And there was one series that was just downright infuriating. Like, if you were on the watch party with me, you knew that I wasn't in a great mood during this drive because it looked like shades of last year's defense had returned. It was basically the drive in the second half. Chicago gets the ball. They're down 24-6. Green Bay had just come off of a very frustrating 3-and-out on the offensive side of the ball. And then all of a sudden, Chicago, with the ball back, leads a 65-yard touchdown drive to begin to cut the deficit down. The drive featured several missed tackles by the Packers, 2 penalties, including one absolutely mindless one that I'll talk about later, a miscommunication in the secondary that led to a passing touchdown, and a 2-point conversion where the running back for Chicago was able just to waltz his way into the end zone because there certainly wasn't much of a challenge put up to stop him from getting those 2 yards. So all in all, you have this wonderful defensive performance. Stopping early in the game. They stopped a 3rd down sneak and then a 4th down sneak to get the ball back early. You got a pick 6. You got all this pressure. But there was one drive where this defense just forgot what the objective of the day was and played incredibly poorly. Very reminiscent of last year. The good news? It was a singular drive. They really didn't do that a ton. For the most part, they stuck to the plan. They were zone sure. And yes, they did play a ton of zone yesterday, which is the correct approach going against Justin Fields. So they were very zone sure. For the most part, they tackled very well. Even a few of the players with reputations of not being great tacklers tackled really well yesterday, including safety Darnell Savage. And they also, when going after Justin Fields, didn't over-pursue. So easily with a mobile quarterback, you can get stuck in the mode of seek and destroy, right? Seek and destroy. And then all of a sudden you wind up seeking a guy who's way faster than you, and you wind up on the ground as he's running past you. There's one highlight in particular yesterday where Kenny Clark was chasing after Fields on what wound up being a halfback screen, and before Fields had even thrown it, Clark knew he wasn't going to get to Fields, so he turned and started pursuing the halfback. Incredible awareness, a great job by the all-world caliber defensive lineman. So a very, very strong performance by the defense on the whole. Looking at the offense, admittedly, I was more frustrated with the offensive performance yesterday than I was the defensive side of the ball. But let's start with the good. The O-line, dang, they ain't playing. We talked about how Chicago had an improved front. Is it the best in the world yet? Nope. But they did pick up pieces to improve their pass rush this year, and frankly, you wouldn't know it. The Green Bay Packers ultimately gave up only 2 pressures on all of Jordan Love's dropbacks. Yeah, 2. Dave Bakhtiari is pulling his best Allen Iverson right now and talking like, practice? We talk about practice. We don't need no stinking practice, because the man doesn't have to practice. He just goes out there against Chicago and he doesn't give up a single pressure all game long. And Zach Tom over on the right tackle side was fantastic. Also not allowing a single pressure all day long. But beyond that, he looked the part. There were some concerns about Tom on the right side, because last year as a rookie, he seemed to play a little bit better on the left than he did the right. Nope, some of those concerns were relieved yesterday because he looked the part. He looked legit as an actual starting right tackle, who I know he has expert positional versatility. And I know there may be some concerns about the interior of the line yet, but it's kind of looking like you don't want to mess with Zach Tom. Almost like you don't want to mess with Elton Jenkins at left guard. We kind of learned that last year, right? Elton Jenkins is this incredible left guard. He's very good at other spots, but he's an incredible left guard. So leave him there. Don't screw with it. Zach Tom's kind of starting to look like that at right tackle. Leave it alone. Don't screw with it. Yes, he could be very good elsewhere, but dang, he's good right where he's at. So leave it alone. We might be getting into that territory for the Packers' best 5. Now, in total, though, the offense didn't exactly look like a juggernaut yesterday. There was some up and down play, but it did consistently cash in on the opportunities when Chicago would give them such preferential field position, which, of course, is like a really good way to win in the NFL. And the thing that was really cool, too, about the offense is they were successful in a number of different ways, meaning they ran the ball fairly well when Aaron Jones was on the field. Passing the ball was effective, especially in the red zone, which has been an area of problem for the Packers, so that was lovely to see. Even hitting a fade, which previous versions of this offense were allergic to at times, so going to Romeo Doubs and allowing him to moss some people was really neat. But even yesterday, broken plays wound up working every so often. A botched snap that Jordan Love maintained his composure, went and picked up, and then just slung it down the field to a wide open Luke Musgrave for a 37-yard completion. There were times where it seemed like there was a little bit of magic with the offense that things wouldn't fail. But my gripe with the offense was the first half. All of those plays that were successful felt so individual. It didn't feel like a sequence of events that was leading to an overall offensive philosophy, an overall game plan. It was just, here's a play. Did it work? Did it not work? No? Yes? Okay. Well, here's the next play that's already determined. It doesn't matter what the first one was. Let's do this one now. Did it work? Yes? No? Okay. Next one. It just felt like that. It didn't feel like this sequence that was building to something, that was trying to goat the Bears into doing something. It was just play, 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 with up and down varied results. But, luckily, in the second half, that began to change its tune. Also, one point that I just want to do here. I love Aaron Jones. Everyone loves Aaron Jones. Why didn't he touch the ball in the second quarter? I went back, I looked play by play in like the overall just like list of plays in the entire game. Aaron Jones did not touch the ball in the second quarter. Why? Why? Why would that ever be? Why are you going 15 minutes of football without your most dynamic playmaker touching the ball in lieu of putting in a guy like A.J. Dillon who's best utilized churning out the tough yards? the tough yards aren't like the 35-yard line on your own side of the field. You're also not looking to absorb clock. Like, what is the logic there? Get Aaron Jones in the game and give him the freaking ball. This is before his hamstring bite, as he called it. This is when Aaron Jones was looking spry. Brand new season, brand new guy. And yet just not giving him the ball in the second quarter, which to me is just continuing to be baffling. And that first half really felt at times like, just like the defense had that one series where the ghosts of last year returned. It felt like that offensively for the first half. Yes, there was some success, but it was in between all these just messed up plays that some were broken, some weren't. What are we doing? What's the direction here? And so, I don't know. It was very frustrating offensively. Yes, they entered the half leading. I get it. But still, that is an area that's got to get improved for this team to reach its full potential. Luckily, at halftime, it did seem as though they made some major changes. They came out operating a little bit quicker for Love, giving Aaron Jones the ball. And it worked. Second half was much, much better. In totality, this was a great season-opening win for the Green Bay Packers. So let's jump to some individual performances. Now that we're about 24 hours after the game, let's take a look at guys upon second watch or upon more information being available today. Guys that really stood out or guys that need to forget this game ever occurred. So let's start with the shout-outs, and I'm going to go with 4/5 of the Packers' offensive line. I'm including everyone here except for Josh Myers. Josh Myers, I'm going to talk about, on the other side of things, and it wasn't all bad for Josh Myers, but still, it wasn't near the level of the other 4 offensive linemen for the Green Bay Packers. The other 4 had levels of exemplary play. Josh Myers did not. I already talked about how they only gave up 2 pressures all game long. And against the Bears, no, it's not the best front in the world. But still, 2 pressures in an NFL game at all is commendable, and they deserve credit. If David Bakhtiari and Zach Tom continue this level of play together, it will not be long before they are viewed as one of the premier tackle duos in the entire NFL. And then you just happen to have Elton Jenkins and John Runyon Jr. and Josh Myers and Rasheed Walker as little extra bonuses in amongst what should be one of the top offensive lines all year long. Let's also give a shout out to Jordan Love. First game, quarterback 1. First game is the franchise guy, right? In a historical rival. I don't want to call him a modern rival because, they're not so much right now. But in a historical rival's facility, Jordan Love goes in. No, not every single pass was accurate. Even passes that were completed had some ball placement concerns. But still, on the day, every other trait was there. He was decisive in his decision-making. It's also very difficult to say on most of his throws, the vast majority I'm going to go with, that he made an incorrect decision in where he threw the ball. For the most part, like last year I was clamoring for just throw the ball to the open guys. He did. So that's a step in the right direction, of course. But beyond that, his footwork was good. Dan Orlovsky for ESPN put out another video today, another segment, detailing how in yesterday's game, Jordan Love used his eyes to misdirect the defense and then throw it somewhere else. That is very advanced quarterback technique. And he's doing it incredibly well at this point. The other thing that he did was maintain composure when there was that botched snap and the ball's rolling away on the ground. He didn't go dive on it. He went and picked it up. And then said, Musgrave's down there somewhere. Woo! And it worked. The thing about Jordan Love is he's inflappable. Dave Bakhtiari, Jair Alexander, everyone's on the Packers team has talked about it. This is a guy who just has composure in spades. Incredibly cool to see. This wasn't just like a sign of progress. This also wasn't like a kick down the door, I'm the new league MVP. No, what this was it was proof, verifiable proof that Jordan Love is a more than competent NFL quarterback. And we're beginning something cool again. Let's also give a shout out to Aaron Jones. So dynamic. The man does it all, right? Like even rushing for a touchdown when he gets a bite in his hamstring. If you're familiar with the old video from the interwebs of like Greg Jennings and the Madden clip where he's got like a broken leg in Madden and he still runs for a touchdown. Like if you're familiar with that at all, the quote with it is always like, he put the team on his back. Aaron Jones running in with a bitten hamstring yesterday. That's a touchdown for the Packers. That was Aaron Jones. By the way, Aaron Jones kind of gets this rep of being like very shifty, very quick twitch, but not like all out speed, right? Well, yesterday in all NFL games, he had the third highest speed on the field yesterday. Tyreek Hill happened to have the first two, Tyreek Hill, like Olympic level sprinter, but Aaron Jones was third. He reached 21.48 miles per hour. Incredibly cool for Aaron Jones. Let's also give a shout out to Devontae Wyatt and the entire pass rushing unit. Yes, they could have garnered more stacks with some steadier tackling approach to Justin Fields, with the exception of LVN, who did incredibly well along the sideline. But still, they got after him. I mentioned the numbers earlier about pressures, but one individual who I did not call out was Devontae Wyatt, who got 6 total pressures all by himself. Devontae Wyatt is an ascending player and someone to look out for even next week. Let's give a shout out to Rasul Douglas. Not only did Douglas have a coverage grade of 78 per PFF, he also logged 8 tackles on the day. His tackles were incredibly clean. He was credited with 0 missed tackles. This is a very strong, complete performance for Rasul Douglas. And speaking of strong and complete, let's look at Darnell Savage, who arguably had his best game since Joe Barry became defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. Matt LaFleur acknowledged in his press conference that happened not too long ago that he had 10 tackles, which led the team yesterday. According to PFF, he also had 0 missed tackles. It was not this flashy, splashy game, but it was a game where he was in the right place at the right time and very, very often led the swarm for the defensive unit. Very, very good game for Darnell Savage. 2 more shout-outs that I want to give. Quay Walker, let's go there. A pick 6 and rumbling, bumbling, humbling down the field like a running back, breaking tackles and getting into the end zone. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that one play. Overall, according to PFF, he had an overall grade of 92. Which puts him in the elite category defensively. His coverage grade, if you round up, was also 92. I think it was 91.8 off the top of my head. He was the best defensive player on the field for the Packers yesterday. And then one last one that makes my heart happy. It's Anders Carlson. Yeah, look, the dude's going to miss some kicks sometimes, okay? And I don't want you to use this as proof that, he's up. But look, all training camp long, I sat next to a bunch of people that every single day, there were people around me saying that oh, he's awful. Why'd we pick up this rookie? He wasn't even good last year in college. There was one day where I was quite literally next to a guy who was calling for Brian Gutekunst to be fired because he got rid of Mason Crosby and he was going to go with the rookie kicker. Yeah, I'm not even kidding about that. That actually happened. But then they showed the patience, and he showed yesterday why they're maintaining him as their kicker. There are going to be ups and downs this year, but it's there. You can see why the Packers believe he could be the kicker for the next 15 years. That 52-yard field goal would have been good from a lot longer than 52, and he hit all 5 of his extra points yesterday. Carlson's got the leg. He's got the ability. He's going to be their kicker for a long time, it looks like. And now, the players who need to forget yesterday and just move on. Let's start off with safety, Rudy Ford. This was not a good game for Rudy Ford. He was credited with 2 missed tackles, which honestly, feels low watching the game. I think he could have been credited with a couple more. But one thing that really got to me was his completely and utterly mindless unnecessary roughness penalty. Rashawn Johnson, running back for the Bears, was on the ground. The play was done. And then there's Rudy Ford picking up and pulling on his leg. That's an unnecessary roughness penalty every single time. And Rudy Ford knows it. And he did it anyway for no benefit, no justification, and no rationalization. I can't come up with one at least. Because even going back and watching that replay, it's not there was threat of him getting up or he had just gone down. No, dude was clearly down. And Rudy Ford's just continuing to tug away. It was nonsense. Not a good day for Rudy Ford. He must improve if he wants to keep his job. Dontavian Wicks, wide receiver for the Packers, making his NFL debut. And the Packers certainly like him. He was on the field 37 snaps yesterday, which was more than any other wide receiver yesterday. 18 of which were run blocking, 19 of which were actually route running. They really, really like him as a blocker. You can see it. And you can see why, too, when you watch. However, for that amount of snaps, especially the route running ones, where you had 19 of them, he was targeted twice. He had 0 catches. That's less than ideal. He also had 2 penalties on the day. This is not the most desirable NFL debut for a rookie wide receiver. Regardless, even after Watson returns, it's clear that there's going to be a role for Wicks. He is one of your Allen Lazard replacements, doing the dirty work, doing the stuff that no other wide receiver is going to do. That much is clear. Let's also talk 2 more. Josh Myers, center. 2 botched snaps in the game yesterday. One with Love, one with Clifford. And I do have to wonder, is there some quarterback involvement here? Because Josh Myers, yeah, there were some problems with Rodgers, but not botched snaps. Not like this. This is different. And so I got to wonder, is part of it on Love? Is part of it on Clifford? But regardless, it's got to get fixed. Period. And he did do some quality work in the passing game. Like he had got a passable 67 grade in pass blocking by PFF. Yeah, still 4th best on the offensive line. But what's really concerning is his run blocking. He had a run blocking grade of 40. And yeah, if you go back and watch, yeah, there were a number of plays where he was pushed backwards. There was one play where he and Aaron Jones collided into each other, which if you want to fault Jones for that, fine. But it's not good if you're the O-lineman getting pushed back into your running back. He had that run blocking grade of 40 was 21.8 points lower than any other offensive lineman with run blocking grade. So there are problems here with Myers, and I still believe he's probably gotten a worse reputation for his blocking than he's deserved. At least pass blocking. He's still above average as pass blocking, but his run blocking's got to improve, and the snapping issue has to get fixed, period. And then the last one. This one may be rough for some folks. He's competent, but he's not great often enough, and that's A.J. Dillon. Yesterday he had 13 carries for 19 yards. I mean, that's a brutal, brutal day. He seems to attract defenders to him as soon as he gets the ball. But yet for someone his size, you would think that that's fine because you're going to attract them and then you're going to run through them. A.J. Dillon seems to attract them and then stop. And that's less than ideal for a big-bodied running back. Some of the decisions that he makes once he gets the ball about which hole he's going to go to, which direction he's going to go to, are frankly baffling. And again, that's not as big of a deal if you're the kind of running back that's going to shed people who are on top of you. But too often we see entire games from Dillon where there's no shedding. It's just stopping. In which case, then making those decisions to run into holes where defenders are is not exactly productive for the offense. He averaged a whopping 1.5 yards per carry yesterday. And the most distressing thing is even going back and watching the game, it feels like it. Too many plays were brought down at the line or right behind the line. Too many plays were 3 or 4 yards tops. There just never seemed to be room for him to actually get space beyond just a couple of yards. In most games, he is a competent running back. In some games, he's an above average running back. But the games where he's not even a reliable, like I'm trying to choose my words carefully here, like there's too many games where he's a hindrance to the offense instead of being a benefit for the offense. It's just not good enough for a second round running back who is revered as being a good decision maker and having high PFF grades. It's just not good enough for Dillon anymore. And in an offense that's going to rely on these running backs, he can't just have entire 60-minute games where it's 1 yard and flopping down rather than 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Something's got to give. Something's got to improve for A.J. Dillon. There you have it. What a game. What a fun time yesterday, and what a win for the Green Bay Packers. Join me on Wednesday. On Wednesday, I'm going to be recapping the news, the notes, the injury reports, all the stuff that we're talking about midweek. And then on Friday this week, we're going to be looking ahead to the Falcons with a game preview. Now, most weeks, I'm also going to be adding in a live Q&A, like one night a week. I'll always announce them plenty of time in advance. All the whole thing, you know me. But This week, nope, got some family birthdays, got a lot of other stuff going on. So just going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday this week. Live Q&A coming up. We'll do that for the first time next week. And then, of course, another watch party coming Sunday for Packers versus Falcons. Thanks so much for joining me here on Lombardi Time Brews. Thanks for joining me yesterday if you were able to stop on by. If not, hope to see you next week. It was a great time had by all. But thank you so much. And as always, go Pack Go.